Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Advanced Youth Radio 99.9 FM. My name is Eva Lopa, and for the next 1 hour, I'll be hosting one-of-its-kind Independence Day conversation, focusing on women and their contributions to the liberation of South Sudan. That being said, happy Independence Day to all South Sudanese tuning in from within and also joining us on Advanced Youth Radio Facebook Live. You too can join the conversation in the comments box or on Twitter under the hashtag SheFreedSS2.
Lokananina geni sawa Mafi hacha pikasi yanina Lokananina ono so hajad Abi waja fika batanina Anina mabi shakil wadu Lokananina geni sawa Yeah, yeah We're all one people, a people of community. We're filled with so much abundance, and why don't we share it all? Hey, live together. Hey, live together. With our in pain, in suffering, there is nothing that will separate us. Hey, live together in love, in love.
That was Geni Sawa by artist Yanas. Thank you so much, Yanas, for that beautiful song. My name is Eva Lopa, and once again, you're listening to Advanced Youth Radio 99.9 FM. You can join us on Advanced Youth Radio Facebook Live or under the Twitter hashtag SheFreedSS2. Today we'll be talking about a show that celebrates women, that celebrates women that contributed to the liberation struggle of South Sudan. Joining me in the studio are two prominent women that contributed not only by voice, and whose contribution not only commanded attention but demanded action that led to the Independence Day of South Sudan. One of them is here with me right now. Honorable Rebecca Joshua, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Good, feeling so good.
How is the independence feeling?
A lot of reflections, mixture of great happiness and contemplating over moving forward for more gaining of grounds for the freedom of our people. There's a lot.
I have a lot to unpack with you today. I'm glad you said reflections because I'd like to know your experience as a woman that we know that not only contributed, but you stood your ground. You stood at a young age. You stood when women were not expected to do much. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experience?
Where do I start from and where do I end? There's a lot, but I'll be concise based on the time we have. Some of us gained consciousness at the time we opened our eyes and we found that we are not citizens of our own country. We are not we have no idea about our identity. Our parents moved from somewhere in South Sudan to Khartoum to other places. And as time goes on, you hear of stories of people who died, and either they were killed or they were in search of freedoms. And we kept on asking these questions. We went to schools. We experienced the Jungule Canal protests when we were young at schools. We were almost arrested. I was lucky because the police by then was looking for students, what they call in Arabic, talaba.
Yes.
So when they say talaba, and you clever enough, you said, ana tilmiz, which a pupil. So they left some of us. They saw us girls and they thought we are not part of the problem. So that's how we escaped some of this. But at the end of the day, the most important bit, as we went to the universities, we realized that we have colleagues who know more than what we do. And at the university, things were getting very hot. And that was just about time the liberation was starting. So who are we not to be conscious enough to join the liberation movement and become part of that? So from that time until the peace agreement in 2005 and the independence, we've gone through a lot. But the most important bit of it is that I sometimes feel lucky to have come at that particular time, to go through a lot of challenges and difficulties in the liberation, but it was a cause worth of talking about today.
Yes.
And I'm very happy that as you reflect back, there's a lot, but the gains are more than those challenges. I think the wounds have healed now.
As
Yes.
this generation, as we look at you, we see that you are women that took political roles, women that chose to be in positions of leadership. When you look back then and you look at today, how far have you come when you look at the women in leadership?
Leadership, for me, I define it as not only being a minister, not only being a member of parliament, but leadership is at various levels. And the most important bit of it is that if you want to advance women or you want to advance young people as we started and we moved forward, I feel that coming from that far of a country which has gone through difficulties, and that before us there were women, there were leaders, they were in positions, but the number was small. And also the effect of our traditions. But as time went and the liberation came, it was not only liberation from the Arabs, it was the liberation also from poverty, liberation of backwardness, and liberation from traditions and customs that drew the women back. So for me, we've added on the advancement of women. And you have women today who've gone to school. The number of women who've learned has increased. The percentage of those who've gone to universities have increased. I remember that time from my community, I think I was number 2 in my community of those who went to the university. Today they are in thousands. And some have gone for masters and PhDs. So with this, you have women who've gone to school and women who've not, but they have learned something. They have gained consciousness. And today they're in position of leadership. Some could be ministerial positions. Some are in parliament. Some are in positions of commissions. And our young generation also is coming behind us, taking over responsibility. But today, as we talk today, we've reached the level of vice president in South Sudan. I think this is something to celebrate. Personally, I celebrate it. So we need to work more and more, harder and harder, but we've moved better than before, much, much better than
Thank you
before.
for those very important remarks. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Advanced Radio 99.9 FM we are having a special conversation on Independence Day focusing on women and their contribution to liberation of South Sudan. I am joined in the studio by Honorable Rebecca Joshua and soon enough Honorable Ann Ito, who are two prominent South Sudanese women in politics whose contribution led to what we are celebrating today, that is Independence Day. I'm also joined by a very young active woman within not only politics, but human rights, women rights, youth rights. Her name is Nyaboth Pasca. Nyaboth, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Eva.
Nyaboth, we just heard Honorable Rebecca's reflecting on the past. I wanted you to come in and tell us more about if you feel that there is a gap between what she's saying, if there's a gap between you and her in what she just said.
Thank you very much, Eva. And I first and foremost, I'm so happy and glad to be amidst great women like you and women that we've been hearing of and came to a point where we've started seeing you guys physically. I feel tremendously excited to see you guys. Happy Independence to everybody out there. I hope everyone is having a good time, and it's good to celebrate. We've come, the country has gone through a lot. Doesn't matter whether you've been directly or indirectly affected, but everybody has at least got their own shares of what the country has gone through. And coming back to, I would give a little bit reflection of when I was growing up, I saw our mothers, how they've so much contributed from when I was way young, but I was a very curious and very jumpy kid. I wanted to know what was really going on, what was happening here. And one thing that I've seen a lot is that women were doing a lot, but they were nowhere to be seen. They were nowhere to be seen, whether the men were fighting or if there is solving any issues relating what is happening within the society. There were very few women, even if the majority also contributed to that. And one flashback that keep coming to my head, that one scenario that I've seen work so much, and from up to today, I felt like women have really contributed a lot, is back in the days when I was growing up, I saw how mothers, there was this gathering of mess where different men would come and eat on the same table, especially the big men, they call them. And if they had problems, their wives would bring the food on the same table and they would eat there, and all their problems would be solved there. And this was because of women. They never bowed back to say that since our men have problems, then we have to cook our food on our side and keep it on our side. Or every mother brings their husband to their houses. No, they said no. These men are going to eat under that mango tree, and they will have to solve their problem. If they fight, let them fight. We don't care. So that was one way of resolving the issues, the major issues. It doesn't necessarily need a big forum where issues would be solved. They understood they understood the issues, and they knew how to solve that issue. And coming to the gap. Also, what I've observed over the years until now, that they had less opportunity and we had more opportunity right now.
Yes.
And with that less opportunity, they did not know how to leverage what they had. But for us, we already had, now at a point where we are, we have more access to different kinds of opportunity. We are informed by their different movement and different contribution of women, and we feel like that inspiration from the past is determining what we're doing now.
I think I can add on something that you said. Mm-hmm. It's very important, and I hear it all of the time, mm-hmm. that the women back then, they were not seen. Mm-hmm. Actually, their contribution was not seen.
Right.
But it's not because they were not there. They were present.
They were.
They were just not acknowledged.
Right.
We read a lot of history that undermines and underestimates the contributions of women, not only in regards to political roles, but also women at domestic workers, women
right.
at home,
mm-hmm.
just being wives and keeping that sound mind for your husband. Mm-hmm. It was very important. They were their husbands' number one advisors.
Right.
And we do not acknowledge such roles. Honorable Rebecca, what do you think about breaching the gap, the intergenerational gap between our generation and yours, or even your generation, the generation previous? Because I'm sure when you joined the movement, you were not only a woman, but you were a very young woman. So there's also a gap between you and the generation before that, a generation that might still exist. How do we breach such gaps?
I'm happy that you've immediately brought it in, because that's what I was going to say. My generation is different from the generation before me, and therefore when we discuss issues like what Nyaboth has said, when we say women those days, we also have to know which days are we talking about.
Right.
Because during our time, there were people also, women who were older than we were, and their generation had gone through some conditions, or they have done good work and perfected, but based on the objective situations that time. For us, during the liberation in particular, we also found ourselves, we've done a lot, we should have really come out, but maybe because we were in a different environment. Different environment of the liberation is completely different. It's not like where we are now, and you could come and catch up with the media. But it was also a completely different environment. A lot has been happening, but only that maybe the objective situation was completely different. So as we move on, you have advancement in the media, which can project what women have been doing. Then you move on now into not only radio and television, but you also move into, before it was storytelling, for example, and then you move into analog media, and then from there you move also to now technology. So we are talking about different generations, and each with their objective situation. About intergenerational aspect, I think what we need to put in mind is that it's like you are a mom, a young mom, and then you're holding your daughter by the hand. And the other daughter will also hold the younger one, so that you move together. And that's how information is handed down from one generation to the other. It could be the generation of my grandmother, who used to do it through storytelling, through sitting around the table, as Nyabo said, but also then it moves into, we sit in, say, at a club, and then we discuss matters, and then again, reading of books and handing out information. Now we are using technology by doing that. So it's very important that it happened before us, and we need to continue with that. But the most important thing is for us to believe that it is not us and them. If we say it is us and them, then somebody comes. I remember I heard something like this. It's like, you people, you don't tell us, you don't allow us to come in. If it's like that, blame, then I will also say, what about those also? Some of us learned to move forward. You don't wait until they come to you. You initiate, you go forward, you say. Some of us during the liberation were in delegations, and I believe my comrade here will add that. I've been in a delegation that had the late Yusuf Kua, the late Justin Yach. We are not even close in any way in terms of age. But I had shown that I'm able, and I can do it, and I can be with that generation. And we moved together for SPLM assignments and missions. And I was like anybody else. I went to Egypt, and I found my age mates who were with me at the university were still sitting there thinking they are still very young when they asked me and say, so you are now a leader in the liberation movement. So I just want to say that it's possible, but we need to interact, and we create the opportunities, and we accept one another. And then the issue will be all of us moving together, but bridging that gap.
Yes, one thing I've noted down is definitely creating space for conversation between generations themselves. We need to create those spaces, and we need to demand to get more information, to know more about the history, to know more about your own experience, so that we can learn to also shape up our own future, or the future of the country in itself. If you're tuning in, you're listening to Advanced Radio 99.9 FM. My name is Eva Lopa, and we've been talking on a very special conversation on this Independence Day, focusing on women and their contribution to the liberation of South Sudan. I am joined in the studio by Honorable Rebecca Joshua and Honorable Ann Ito, who has just walked in. These are two prominent South Sudanese women in politics, whose names, whose voices, whose power commanded a lot of attention, demanded a lot of action that led to what we are celebrating today. I'm also joined by activists, women's activists, human rights activists, and youth rights activists, Nyaboth Pascal. You are very welcome, Honorable Ann Ito.
Thank you.
How is your Independence Day going?
Wow. I think one of the most important thing on such a day is reflection. I spent the whole day reflecting on where we came from, the challenges we had, the opportunities we had. But what excites me more is the limitless opportunities we have as a free people, that we can take it and make it into our own and the way we want it. And I think that is the most exciting thing. We should remove our vision from the immediate thing, because a nation is not just 1 year.
Yes.
And a nation takes process. And we have millions and millions of years ahead of us. We cannot judge ourselves, we cannot judge our success based on only 9 years. But of course, that does not mean we continue to behave like we are babies.
Yes.
Because we fought for a purpose, for a cause, and that cause has not disappeared. And we had a vision, and we need to continue. For me personally, each year when we celebrate independence, I reflect. I begin looking at what are the challenges there, personally for me, but also as a nation, and things that I can do better, and things that this country can do better. And instead of blaming, we unite our hands together and begin facing those challenges like we did, like our fathers did, like our great-parents did, great-parents did, because they also struggled. They also had faith in themselves. They also were working for us, and we need to work for our children as well. And we need to remember we have great future, even if the few years have been difficult.
Yes. I'm also reading your comments online on Advanced Youth Radio Facebook Live. I have quite a few questions and a few comments. We can see them all. But for Honorable Ann Ito, what is one thing you would celebrate today? What is one thing you'd say you're celebrating today?
There are so many things I have to admit I celebrate. I celebrate my personal freedom as a woman, because it's not easy to be able to come out of that environment where you feel you can't do this, you can't do that, and you cannot do that because you're a woman. I celebrate the fact that I came out of that freedom, from that confinement. But I also celebrate the free country, that we are now free. We can do whatever we want in this country. We can make peace. We can create opportunities. We can create jobs. We can teach our children. We can make this country great. I celebrate that. But on a day like this, I also remember those heroes and heroines who, without any selfishness, laid down their lives so that we can be free to do what we want. And also on a day like this, I want to celebrate women. I really want to celebrate women, though, of course, what they have done, most people think is ordinary. They carry babies, they nourish babies, they took care of the ill, the sick, they carried guns, they even fought. They think this is ordinary. But I think we need to celebrate this, Because without those little things and big things they did, we would never have arrived where we are today. And I want women also to join me in celebrating the independence that they also worked hard to achieve.
Yes. Thank you so much. I am glad you spoke about celebrating women, because often we forget what women do. Even if it's just carrying babies, it is not an ordinary task. It is not something ordinary that someone can do. And when you say ordinary, Pasca, if you can agree with me, right now, even the air does not feel ordinary. There's so much power in the room right now. There is nothing ordinary about women, specifically about the women with us here today. Mm-hmm.
I forgot one thing.
Yes.
Please allow me to say this.
Yes.
I know there were some women who were on the war front, including my sister here, Honorable Rebecca. But you bet, if those men on the front line did not believe they left capable women at home taking care of their children, and old parents, they would not have made the war. That is for sure. If they didn't believe somebody was there, their wives were there taking care. So really, others think it's ordinary, but I think it's very extraordinary that they did this with pride and patience, even though they were struggling. I need to mention that.
Yes, all women matter, and women contributed to the liberation in many different ways, in the ways that you have explained as well. Because if their husbands who are soldiers that were at the front lines did not know that there was someone at home taking care of their children, that their home is fine, that their family is fine, that their children are well, they wouldn't have been able to even give that contribution to the country in itself. So thank you so much for mentioning that. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Advance Radio 99.9 FM. My name is Eva Lopa. I am your host, and we're having a conversation on women and their contributions to the liberation of South Sudan. I am joined by two prominent women, that is Honorable Ann Ito and Honorable Rebecca Joshua, as well as Nyaboth Pascal, who is a phenomenal, fantastic young woman that advocates and fights for us young women today. Pascal, I'd like you to contribute a little and talk more about something that is a big conversation right now, women in leadership, the 35% inclusion, peace process implementation. You are someone that is very active on such. Can you give us a few comments, and what's your view on it?
First and foremost, I think there's been fast 25% affirmative action. And now we are the roller coaster is on 35%. And let's dwell on it a little bit. For 35%, I think it's quite misunderstood by the people. They think women have the 35%, so this is their quota. This is what you have, and this is whatever you bring for that, it belongs to that, But that's not it. 35% is just the minimum, and there is that 65 where women also compete for that, and it is across, whether executive, the legislative arm of the government, or even the judiciary. Right now, we all know when my seniors here would agree, it's still lacking a little bit. But before I come to that, I want to give a big salute and respect to all the women that have been fighting so hard to get to not get. They did not get it. They earned the 35% affirmative action. We've seen how they've been consulting with women. They do come back to South Sudan and call for women meeting and killing sleepless nights every day to make sure that women they've been contributing so much, but this time they want to be on the front line of decision making. If it means also going to the front line, maybe to shoot guns, God forbid, this is not the this is not the sign of women.
Not the time anymore.
This is not the time. They fought so much and earned that, but that just put a minimum that when you're interested in politics or in leadership, you can you can enter in because there is that minimum that is an advantage, an added advantage. But also, if you're out there and you want to compete, you are open to that. You can come in and join anytime. But, for inclusivity, for the biggest issue, which I think is the part of inclusivity when it comes to implementing the 35%. We all know what's going on. It's not been implemented.
Yes.
And it's still dragging because you want something and everybody acknowledges. For example, in the room here, everyone acknowledges, yes, this is what the women want and we shall give them. And then when it comes to putting the words into action, it never works out. What is the problem? Why? Why does it have to be women have been put in a position of begging? We cannot beg for our own country. Women have died in different generations, not until now, where decisions are being made to determine how the country should move forward. Women cannot beg for just the minimum of that, because the 65 is still open. And but we want to just give credit to that it's there, yes, but there is just a lot. There is words, there is saying it and writing it down, but also there is another, which is putting the words into action. We should not be beggars. Women should not be beggars for their own rights.
I want to hold on to something that you asked. You said, why is it happening like this? And I want to direct this question to both Honorable Anne and Honorable Rebecca Joshua. You fought for the 25. You were also here when we were fighting for the 35. When it was the 25, was it fully implemented? If it was not, why was it not fully implemented? If it was, how did you do it? And then how can we do it right now with the 35? Not only that, but as Pascal mentioned, 35 is not enough. We want the 50. We might even want more.
Right.
Yes.
We're the majority of the population anyway.
Correct. What are your views on that?
Okay.
Honorable Anne, yes.
Well, thank you very much. I would want to start by actually congratulating the young girls of today who actually build on whatever we achieved. From 25, they move it to 35. This is a big congratulations on their behalf, because this is what happens. You learn from where we have failed, but also where we have succeeded. I think congratulations to you. Now, for sure, 25% in government did not work. There are so many reasons. But I also want to say 25% when it was made an election law, where a quota was given to women, it worked. In the election, there was a women-only seat to represent 25%, and nobody touched those seats. And yet women were allowed to compete in the political party positions as well as the constituency-based. But the 25% was not touched. That is the only time when we actually achieved the quota fully. It was the law. It was respected. We mobilized. I was then the acting Secretary General for SPLM during that election. But what we did was we followed the law, but we also did a lot of mobilization, making sure that women and men and the chiefs and everybody understood that 25% belongs to women and women only. But also we followed through. We went and checked all the nominations, all the papers submitted in providing candidates' name. We check and make sure that there was not Machar or there was no John. That where it was 25%, it was Anne, Rebecca, and Newball, and Rose, and Maria.
To that. Amen.
Anybody. So that is where we work. But because we followed and made sure nobody touched it. My experience also is when it came to the political party candidates. In fact, this is where we have to take a lesson. If you have a woman somewhere making sure something happens, a woman with a voice, it would happen. because, SPLM is made up of equal numbers of male and women. If anything, maybe there are more active members who are women in SPLM than men. And they work not for position, but because they believe in the cause. So when candidates lists are submitted under SPLM, we check. If it's only men, we say this is not representative of SPLM because we have women who must benefit from the party list. And we checked and we made sure the women were there. This is when we had an opportunity to be the person in charge of running the election and checking the list. So this is also true for government. We did not achieve the 25%. There is a law, and I think we need to really go and make sure that the Constitution is a law. The 35% is a law. We have to follow it and making sure we knock the doors of those who are taking decisions that 35% is met. If not, we have to continue. Because when it comes to position for women, it involves change of attitude on the part of the men. I'm not saying in a bad way, because that is our culture. We are patriarchal society where women are like new people, new players in the political arena. And however good they are, deep down in the heads of our male counterparts, they think you should wait. You must be patient. You should wait when you are offered this thing. But it's a law. It must be respected. Now, women need to find out why it may be that some people are neglecting. They are negligent about the law. Maybe there is enough pressure on the part where, on the part of the men, because they think it's their right, they want to be there. And the women may not be applying equal force to be recognized. So really, to me, I think it's a matter of attitude, and it's our culture that we must work together with the men to respect, because it's not a gift. It is what we deserve. If it is playing politics, we know how to play politics. If it is contribution to our independence, we have contributed more than anybody. If it is knowing what to do, we know what to do. From the house up to the government offices, we know what to do. So really, I think it's an attitude that we all have to work very hard to defeat. But also one thing which is important is we need to accept politics is a new arena for women. Some of them are afraid of trading. They are not sure whether it's comfortable. They are not sure about sometimes you hear these political quarrels and things. Some people are not ready for that. But this 35%, as I said before, must be combined with some kind of identifying people who are interested, giving some kind of training if it's needed, because normally when it comes to government positions, the bar is raised for women. You can find a man and they, whether they have the substance or not, they get appointed. But when it comes to, is she educated? Does she have this qualification? Is she experienced? Those questions are never asked to men. And we have to be frank about this. And this thing must actually go, because as citizens, we are all qualified. If it's education, we know. If it's learning, most of this, there is a first time for everybody. There is a first time for every minister. There is a first time for every undersecretary. Why shouldn't it be a first time for a woman? So there is a first time for everybody. But I think for us women also to increase our chances, rather than just going and talking, we need to identify the people whom we think qualify. We give these names of people who nobody can say does not qualify, but also, we have to organize some kind of program that draws in from the population of women and prepares them for now and in future, because soon there is going to be election. We need this 35%. Even if it's met here by the agreement, the next time it will be elections. If we want this 35 to continue, we need to plan for it now. We need to identify and train and prepare the ground, open this political space so that women can confidently step and say, this is where I'm going to sit, and nobody's going to do anything about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Rebecca,
Yes.
I'd like you to add more on the importance of women's involvement, but also the importance of women accepting other women and younger women within their space in the government, because there is a gap between the two as well. How important is it that we talk to each other, and not just we talk to each other, but we accept each other? It's not that there is an enemy that we must all join together against, but there's a goal, there's a vision that we all share, that we need to get there. And if we don't speak to each other, we don't accept each other, we cannot get there. How important is it for your generation to speak to my generation? How important is it to prepare me to become maybe not an Aunt Ito, but maybe an Aunt Ito 2.0? How important is it for you to prepare me, or to prepare Pasca to also become the next Rebecca Joshua that is 2.0?
Great. Thank you very much. I like the way you read my mind, because I didn't want to repeat much of what Dr. Ann said, but very quickly to thank your boss. And I think, Pasca, your questions are exactly what we are already now talking. And I think from here, we should continue. It's part of that intergenerational communication. Don't shy away from us. We are just your elder sisters or your mothers, and we're still having this young mind and also reflecting on how we were growing and how we're also looking up to others. We are ready. We are saying we are ready to continue with you. So very quickly, just let me very quickly go back to the 25%. It was a hard-earned opportunity for women during the liberation. And that's why I want to say we're very conscious enough that we did not want to sit there and say, we are women, we are young, we are behind the men and the rest. We all were at the front line, we were at the training, we all, liberated the country. So women worked hard to say, we need our portion. And I want to thank our leadership. It shouldn't just go like that. Our leadership was very understanding, because they realized that we contributed without any barrier, and we did everything that they needed, or was needed by then. So had won 25%, and in the eve of that, we made sure that the 25% affirmative action must be enshrined in our Constitution. If you don't, because we were conscious, if you don't put it in the Constitution, you will be told tomorrow, oh no, there's this chair, leave it for I don't know who. So it gave us that strength. We need what Mama Ann has said. We need to be aggressive, not in the negative way, but in moving forward. Charge, it is my right. And when it is your right and it is in the law, nobody's going to deny you. We need to learn a lot of lobbying skills, strategizing, moving forward, working together. We need to use the media. I'm a journalist, and I know how much I have done through the media. And this is exactly what you are doing. So use the media and talk. Let people be educated. Let them know what it means. Don't tell them. Even vocabulary in the media matters. Don't say, we are given. Who is giving you? It is yours. So why should you be given? This language, you have to use that. So we need to be strategic, and we have to have one voice. One voice is important, because we are always accused that we stab ourselves in the back. Yes. How do we take that notion out of people's minds that we don't do it, so that we are together, we are united, and we are strong? I just want to move very quickly to this very important point of the involvement of young girls and young women and this intergenerational communication. I think that's very important. And again, and I believe Dr. Ann and myself here, we are raising our hands to say we are ready for you. But there's a lot in terms of knowledge. There's a lot in terms of information. We had tried it, and we succeeded in a lot. But still things have to change. And therefore, work hard to cultivate your minds so that you come up with which are those experiences that our mothers, our elder sisters tried but didn't work. And how do we fill that gap? How do we work together and encourage ourselves and sometimes critique us and tell us, look, there was a workshop and you never invited us, our mom. How are we going to learn if you are excluding us from that meeting, from that workshop? Let us have sometimes maybe combine. You know, you use the word inclusivity. Include means we do it together so that you don't exclude others whom you think. You know, those days I remember. I mean, some of our communities, they would say, young people, don't sit here, this is the elders talking. But elders are talking about the fate of the nation. How can you exclude them? Right. That is why during our time in the liberation, we never accepted to be excluded. So, as I said earlier, let it be a combined action, yes. Combined way forward of saying, look, you see us walking, run after us and say, my moms, please, there's something here, there's a gap, something we don't understand. What did you do during the liberation? We explain. We also come to you because there are things we are learning now, technology now. Although some of us are at the era of technology, we've tried it, but there are things you can pick very quickly. We can use it better than, snail pace. We will come to you also. It's enter, as per the word. We will learn from one another. We support one another. When they say, Pascal, don't talk about human rights, don't talk about rape. Those days it was a taboo. Now all of us are talking about rape. At your age, during our time, what is it? You don't even pronounce the word. Yes. But today we are learning. So I just want to encourage us to work together and tell others outside there that we are ready to continue because we believe what we have achieved without handing it back over to you, we are not going to be anywhere tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Rebecca. You are listening to an Up and Close in Depth with a special edition of Gender Talk 211. We are celebrating Independence Day and women who contributed to the liberation of South Sudan under the theme, The Missing Chapters, or these women that were not only in politics, but women that were at home, women that contributed by just saying something, by doing something, by sacrificing something. We are celebrating all of them, as well as widowers of soldiers, wives of soldiers that have contributed in ways that we might not know. Your mothers, your grandmothers, your own women that you know yourself. Appreciate them. Go and let them know that we celebrate them today, every day, and we will continue celebrating them. This conversation, if we were to keep on going, it will never end. But in the last few minutes that I have, I don't want to deprive our audience on Facebook Live, on Advanced Youth Radio Facebook Live. There's one question that captured my eye, which says, how will we identify women leaders? Is there a proposed database? This brings me to a conversation that myself and Pasca and other women were having on documentation, archives, and a national museum for women. How do we identify women? How do we continue remembering them? How do we even teach in schools about them? What can we do to preserve the history of women, or rather to preserve her story? What would you think, in your opinions, we can move forward with that?
For us?
Yes.
Very quickly, I know time is running out, but let me say, as we sit here, I have already started talking about writing a book about Radio SPLA, where I contributed. Really, this is what I say will be my piece. And I kept on talking about it, and I started putting down points, but there's a lot. I need a lot of energy, and I believe some of you also, please volunteer to help us jot down some of the information we have, because as time goes, we are going to miss that out. And I remember somebody at the university who was lecturing asked the students and said, do you know Radio SPLA? And they said yes. But you remember those? Yes, those of Rebecca Joshua. And then, okay, so what do you know about her? Somebody thought Rebecca Joshua is dead, or she is a very old woman, she is no longer here in Juba. And then when he was told it's the same Rebecca who is in the ministry, it's like, what? So people have already put us in the archives, my daughters. We don't want to go to the archives when we're still alive. So we need to write books. We need the database, as you said. We could have some database, but it's scattered. So we need to bring it together. But archives is very important. Books are very important. Poems are very important. I do write poems. Next time you invite me for poetry.
Yes.
And we need to document our history because it should be taught to our children in school. After all, we have a history. And that's why Khartoum used to say we don't have a history. That history is there. So part of it that some of us experience and we're still alive, I think we need to document that, and that will keep our history alive, and it will also go down to the generation to come.
Thank you very much for adding in on that. And call us, let us know anytime you would like us to volunteer. We will be there. Honorable Rebecca. Now that we are approaching at the end of the show, I would like from each person in 2 minutes, roughly 2 minutes, to just let us know your vision. What is the way forward? Where do we move from here, from where we're standing right now? How do we move forward? What is your vision? What is your 10-year plan ahead for not only women, but for the future of South Sudan in general?
Okay.
Is that?
Thank you. When I move out from here and counting years, in 10 years' time, I want to look back and smile and say we have the museum or the National Archives for Women. We look back into the different historical events where women have contributed tremendously to achieving the South Sudan that we want. And looking also that we have to a point we will be, where I'll be standing, for example, where I will be looking at so many women, not just a specific age bracket, but various age bracket, the young and also the wise. You usually don't like to be called old.
Vintage.
The vintage.
Yes.
So the young and the vintage, who are the old, are working hand in hand to ensure that they contribute, they continue to inspire the greater the coming generations. And I really, really look forward to this, and we'll make them. And just to add on, can I say something?
Please, go ahead.
To add on that, just to add on that question that you asked, what can be done to preserve the history of this country?
Yes.
Like Mama Rebecca has already said, it's very important, very, very important. We are so scared as at the age where I am right now. I'm so scared that what if anything happens to our elders and they're dying with the history, and there is no documentation. And if you find little documentaries or documentation, it's not done by us, the South Sudanese. So nobody knows the story about us than us, So it's very, very important that we start the journey right now to start documenting as much information about the past contribution of women, and not only also stop on women. We don't have a national museum also for all the people that contributed greatly for the country. So this is really important. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much, Pascal. Honorable Anne.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a very great day. I continue to reflect on the independence and what is there for us. The way I think about the future is as an elderly women politician, that we really need to remove this myth about politics, women in politics. We need to remove that myth because it's a myth. It's not real. Women need to know politics is there, and politics should be a responsibility. It should not be greed for power, because a lot of people think, politics is greed for power. Politics is when you can't manage your home. Politics, a lot of young girls have very funny ideas, fears, without basis about politics. Politics is a call, like you want to be a reverend sister or a father because you love God. You want to become a politician because you love service to the people. You want to contribute to the betterment of the country. It's not about anything. There is nothing mythical about politics. And to be able to get women, especially young women, to feel that way about it, you need some form of communication between the elderly and the young, but also there should be some systematic way of opening the space for women leaders, so that they can check for themselves whether indeed they want to become politicians. Once they choose, there should be a process for building them up, giving them the courage, giving them the tools for the job, so that when they get there, they will not slip back. Nobody will be playing them like a game. They will know they're there and they know what they want and they know how to serve. To me, that is very, very important. Removing the myth, but also preparing the tools and preparing the women so that they can compete.
Yeah.
It's not enough to say the space is there.
Yes.
If you're a farmer, you go with a hoe. If you're a doctor, you go with a stethoscope and you have medicine to give to people. But you cannot say, go and play politics for women, and you have not done enough to prepare them. But finally, also, I would want women to feel wherever you are, whether you're a woman politician or an activist or a woman in government, you should work together.
Yes.
Because that is the only way to move women forward. If you fear each other, you will never get to your goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. And Honorable Joshua, your last and final remarks for the vision and maybe 10-year plan. What do you see ahead? What would you like to happen ahead?
First, from here, the hard-won affirmative action for women, we move from 25 to 35%. We need to work together to achieve the 35%. It shouldn't just be a figure, but it must be a reality on the ground. And we continue to encourage women to believe that, don't say, I want this and I don't want this. Can perform, and let us look at across the level, in Parliament, in the Commission, even women in the economic sector. Sometimes we forget and we think we only want to be politicians. We can also be in the economic sector, and we play it very well. So let us this time apply the percentage that we have fought for, so that it's not every time 25, we don't achieve 35, we are not also achieving, and we use the strategies I said earlier. Number two, very quickly, I want to encourage women to join the media in a bigger number, because in the media you are a communicator, and through you, information, education, Mama Ann talked about it, entertainment, to remove that psychological problem you have. Let us increase the number in the media so that we are able to open communication. And finally, is to say the generation after us, and still, again, we continue to reach out to those who are before us, that together we make that chain that will help us to work together. This country, it is built or earned on the blood of martyrs. And this is our first time to enjoy identity and land and soil, and you dance and you sing. There is no more those restrictions. So I want to encourage us to make the utmost use of this opportunity we've had. I hear a lot of people saying, what have we done now? 9 years old. What is it? Please be happy with what you have. Every country has challenges, but together, unified, we can achieve these challenges. And the sky is the limit for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. A last question, which is actually for me. It says, what are you celebrating today, Eva? Celebrating women is enough for me today. If there's anything I want to celebrate, it's women. I'm celebrating my mother. I'm celebrating my mothers in the studio. And I thank you very much for joining us today. Pascal as well, my sister in activism. my sister in feminism, thank you very much for joining us. This conversation was very productive. I've learned a lot, and I hope to continue having such conversations. And I hope when we call on you and we ask you to come and teach us, we ask you to come and prepare us, you tell us, yes, I'm on my way. Because that is what we will continue doing for the rest of our time.
We pledge.
Thank you very much. Thank you also to our audience on Facebook Live for joining us, and those who joined us under the hashtag SheFreedSS2. If you have more stories, you can go under the hashtag right now and tell us more comments. We will read them and share them and celebrate them as well. Happy Independence to all South Sudanese tuning from everywhere in the world. If you're going to celebrate anything today, I hope you're celebrating women with that as well. My name is Eva Lopa, and this is Advanced Youth Radio 99.9 FM.
Talking about the many wars and broken dreams, the pain of the lost ones, of people treated less than humans, parents working 3 jobs just to feed their families, while the forgotten orphan just roams the streets. But my people don't give up, and my people don't break down. My people don't break down, and my people don't give up. Junubin don't give up, Junubin don't break down. Junubin don't give up, Junubin don't break down. They say a diamond is big from the rough, and gold is molded in a bit of fire. Maybe we told our precious and rare, 'cause it explains all we've had to endure. My people don't give up, and my people don't break down, and my people don't break down, and my people don't give up. Junubin don't give up, Junubin don't break down. Junubin don't give up, Junubin don't break down. So hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Hey, 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 you hold on. Hey, 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 you hold on. 'Cause you don't give up, my people don't give up, and my people don't break down. My people don't break down, and my people don't give up. Junubin don't give up, Junubin don't break down. Junubin don't give up, Junubin don't break down.
Beautiful.
You are listening to 99.9 Advanced Youth Radio.